Hi everybody, FPL Witty here, back out here in the West Yorkshire countryside for another of my regular weekly FPL videos. Might be my last one for a while. We've got a 6-week World Cup break coming up, might just squeeze one in next week after game week 16. But after that we've got no games until Boxing Day, have we? So by the time I'm back out here again, I'll probably be in a 3-foot snowdrift. So anyway, recording this on the back of game week 15 recording on Monday morning. Hope you had a good week. We've got a 15-minute slot where we'll have a look at the game week that's just gone by, have a look at some of the key issues, some of the things we need to be thinking about. With just 1 week to go now, so hope you had a good week yourself. I'll talk about my game week later. So yeah, a bit of a dramatic week really. I mean, we had 37 goals scored, which is certainly on the high side. And a lot of those goals, of course, were scored by players we don't own. A lot of the lesser owned players scored well this week. I think it's fair to say that most of the drama took place before we even kicked a ball this week. What an absolute farcical situation we had we've had created now with Manchester City having their game as an early kick-off for 3 consecutive weeks, and we seem to be getting reliable Man City team leaks now, just 10, 15, 20 minutes before the deadline. So, of course, naturally, a lot of engaged managers will wait for the news. We all hung on this week to see if Haaland or Foden were starting or benched, and then made late calls on captaincy and transfers accordingly. So, of course, no sooner had the information come through and the FPL servers couldn't cope with the traffic and the site crashed, and we had a huge number of managers really not able to make a transfer or a captain change. So complete farce really, but there's some winners and losers in it, of course. Once news came through of Haaland being benched, a lot will have tried to switch the captaincy from Haaland, a lot will have gone to Cancelo, and a lot will have gone to Salah. Hugely contrasting outcomes, of course, and of course those that didn't quite make that transfer will either be very happy or very disappointed. Similarly, a lot of people will have tried to make the switch from Salah to De Bruyne to captain him with Haaland out, and again, whether or not that went through or not through will be good luck or bad luck really. So certainly added an element of luck and farce to this week, but there were some people who did very well out of that and managed to get their transfers through, so well done if you did. But yeah, certainly on the field, Arsenal had a tough test of their credentials on paper away to Chelsea. I thought they were very comfortable. I know it was only 1-0, but I thought Chelsea were very disappointing really. I thought they were a bit one-dimensional, just punting a long ball upfield most of the time. They didn't seem to penetrate Arsenal too much. I thought it was quite comfortable. Gabriel got the only goal, of course, not many on him, but Saka assists will be very popular. I think the frustrating one is the lack of goals for Jesus for his owners, isn't it? I mean, I don't own Jesus, but he scares me to death every time I watch him with his high ownership. How he's not had some big hauls over recent weeks, I just don't know. Every single time I watch him, he looks as though he could be scoring monster points, but he doesn't. So we'll see how that one plays out in game week 16. But yeah, Manchester City hot on their heels. They won, but they certainly left it late. But incredible drama really. Haaland coming off the bench, having a goal disallowed, and then scoring the penalty, which he very nearly missed, of course. Just poor penalty, just snuck in. I mean, I had a farcical situation in the Man City game where I had 4 players. I had Haaland and Foden benched, Mitrovic not in the squad. So my only remaining starter was Cancelo, who got a red card for conceding a penalty, which Mitrovic would have taken, of course, if he was on the field, but instead it was got taken by Andreas, who was last on my bench. So sometimes you just got to laugh at these things, haven't you? But that's how it goes. But yeah, Cancelo, a red card. Just be careful of that one. There's 160,000 people transferred him out so far, but he's not suspended in game week 16. The red card for a last man challenge is only 1 game, not 3, unlike violent conduct. And he'll serve that in the EFL Cup midweek. So Cancelo will play in game week 16. So make sure you don't transfer him out. But yeah, pretty incredible game really. And of course Foden benched for 3 in a row. So goodness knows what he's done to upset Pep. But something's going on there, isn't it? Outside of that, Mo Salah, he made all the headlines. I think the big winners this week were the Mo Salah captainers who potentially switched from Haaland at the last minute. Most of them I would have thought, because I think most were on Haaland before the news came through. So fantastic from Mo. I owned Mo, I didn't captain him, but certainly saved my game week in the end. A goal for Harry Kane, of course. We say that most weeks, but all in vain this week. I think one big takeout from this game for me was the performance of Perisic, who played up front. Hit the woodwork twice. So if you've got a defender playing up front, he's got Leeds at home next. Incredibly attacking. Certainly worse 1 week punch than Perisic at home to Leeds this week, I think. Outside of that, we had Newcastle. They just score for fun, don't they? Just can't stop scoring. Another 4 goals at Southampton. The 2 highest transferred in players this week were Almiron and Callum Wilson, with hugely contrasting fortunes. I bought Wilson in, of course. He went off at half-time with feeling unwell, I think. Feeling dizzy, but he had a cold all week, so I don't think it's injury-related, but still frustrating when I brought him in, and many others did too. About 1 million people brought him in. I brought him in for Tony. But yeah, Almiron was the one to bring in, wasn't he? He's just on fire. Yet another goal for Almiron. So I can't get to Almiron because I'm already tripled up on Newcastle with Pope and Trippier and now Wilson. So I certainly got that call wrong this week. But yeah, absolutely loads of goals elsewhere. I mean, Leeds came from 1-3 to 4-3, win 4-3 against Bournemouth. Nice little cheeky goal for Solanke owners, of course. That'll please a lot. But you don't want to be putting your defenders up against Leeds in some ways, do you? Because they're just playing with a real freedom at the moment, aren't they? So incredible from Leeds. Certainly seem to have had a spark, don't they? Elsewhere, plenty of goals again. I mean, Brighton won 3-2 at Wolves. So Wolves have now lost at home heavily to Brighton. Well, not heavily, but they've conceded a lot of goals to Brighton and Leicester, 7 in their last 2 home games, which augurs well for Arsenal attackers perhaps in the last match at Wolves, doesn't it? So certainly plenty of goals there. And Brentford and Forest, they shared a 2-2, so Brentford can still score a couple of goals without Tony. Outside of that, Danny Ward is just an absolute clean sheet monster after he was a source of all our ridicule at the start of the season. He got another clean sheet as Leicester won at Everton. And of course Man United got turned over at Villa. There'll be a lot of people brought Rashford in this week, won't they? So disappointment there. One to note there is that we had a lot of players on 4 yellow cards, 1 game away from missing game week 16. I think the only one that succumbed to that dreaded 5th yellow this week was Dalot of Man United. And he's now out of game week 16, so just be careful of that. I think we've already got about 50,000 people transferred Dalot in this week, so I think they'll be in for a bit of a surprise, don't you? Quickly on to my game week. Well, strange one really. I only had 4 returning players this week, but I almost broke even because all my players scored double figures. I had a Haaland captaincy. I decided to keep it on Haaland because I still fancied him off the bench, so decided, even though I knew he was benched, he's going to still be my captain. He's still got a massive effective ownership, 160% with captaincy. Fancied him off the bench. I mean, he got 1, he almost got 2, so I think that was vindicated in a way. Don't think we could have foreseen Salah scoring twice, and I'm glad I didn't put it on Cancelo. So 4 returns. I had Haaland in double figures with a captaincy, Trippier, which I think most people have got at my rank level. But my game week was saved really by Mo Salah and Zaha. So 4 returns, but all double figures. I went down this week from 95k to 104k, so it was a very small red arrow this week, which is certainly disappointing, having been where I was 3 weeks ago with 3 red arrows, but still got to look at it in context. Top 100k, top 1% at this stage after 15 game weeks, still a good place to be. Probably the thing that cost me a green arrow this week was Pope conceding in the last minute. That would have been enough to give me a green arrow, so it's fine margins, isn't it? So that was very costly, and of course Callum Wilson going off at half time didn't help, so it is what it is. We move on. So yeah, quickly on to game week 16, and of course we've only got 1 game week to go now. We're before one game week to go before we have a 6-week break for the World Cup. If you've not already played your wild card, you need to do it this week, because then it's gone, you've missed it. And then during the World Cup we all get unlimited free transfers, so any transfers you make this week, you're making them just for 1 week really, with this week's fixtures in mind. I'd wait certainly until Friday, because we've got the EFL Cup midweek, lots of potential injuries there. So in terms of what I'm going to do this week, still a bit undecided really. I've got 2 transfers. I decided not to make a move with all the shenanigans in the last 15 minutes. I decided I'd keep Foden rather than replace him. I would have gone to Bowen or Rashford, who failed anyway, so the bonus is I've got 2 transfers now by keeping Foden. Still fancied him off the bench, but there you go. But I do have 2 transfers, so there's a silver lining. So a couple of things I could do really. I mean, I've got Foden to think about. We've got to decide whether we want to play the Foden games again and wait for the late leaks and risk the server crashing. I think I'm inclined to just take Foden out this week, despite the good potential fixture. I don't think I can risk another benching, so I'll probably replace him. Fancying Saka or Jesus this week. I've only got 1 Arsenal attacker, and I felt really light on that all week. I could bring Saka in this week, potentially for Foden. Can't bring Almiron in because I'm triple Newcastled. Just got to watch the fitness of Mitrovic. He wasn't in the squad, and if it's a recurrence of his other injury and his 1 game before the World Cup, I think there's got to be big question marks about whether Mitrovic plays. So could replace Mitrovic, could replace him by Jesus if I go a bit cheaper than Saka. So I think it'd be one of those 2. Frustratingly, I can't quite get both. I'm about 0.1 short. But bit of money in the bank. Could even bring Ben White into the defence to make sure along with Saka. That's one option. So certainly a few things to think about, but keep an eye on those EFL Cup games. If you want to follow my team a bit closer, you can do so. I write articles for Fantasy Football Geek website. I'll have one out this week. You can follow me on Twitter at FPL Witty. And I'll be out here doing these videos once a week. I'll probably just squeeze 1 more in next week, and then I'll put my feet up to enjoy the World Cup. So hope you're looking forward to the World Cup. I'm not overly optimistic about England, but you never know, they might surprise us. So we'll see how that one plays out. I don't think I'll be playing the World Cup version of FPL. I think I have enough stress with this version of FPL, so I think I'll just be putting my feet up and enjoying it. But no, have a good game week. So I think Haaland will be a standout captain this week. I think he's almost certain to start, so don't mess about. Just keep it on Haaland. I'll have a massive ownership this week. I think the game week could well be decided with those who are on 2 premiums as to whether Salah against Kane against KDB, all on good fixtures, so that could well define where the game week goes this week. But yeah, we all need that bit of luck. Hope those low ownership differentials come in. Hope you get a green arrow. It's the last one before the World Cup, so hope you finish in a strong way. Hope you enjoy the week ahead. Enjoy the EFL Cup. I'll be back next week, so have a good game week. So as they say in Barnsley, I'll see thee.